The title of today's class is Center and Periphery. And we're going to experience two different centers in contrast with the periphery. The two centers are both two very central chakras in the body. One is the heart center and one is the solar plexus center. So this is out of 7 centers. This is center number 4, which is technically the middle one. And this is center number 3, which is very central in the body. So both of these experiences can give us a feeling of center, but very different kinds of center. If we talk about the solar plexus center, we can say that it's a very dynamic, very energizing center. And when we experience our movements with that center, they will stream outwards into the periphery in a very dynamic and energizing and strengthening kind of way. Whereas if we talk about the heart center, we can experience its relationship to the periphery in the sense that we feel ourselves centered, gathered inwards and centered. So it has a much more calming effect. It gives us that feeling of our own center, a sense of our own self. So two very different experiences of center. They complement each other. We could say that they're two different kinds of warmth. You can have a very fiery warmth that happens when your metabolism is stimulated, as it is when we work from the solar plexus, a literal heat being produced in the body. And you can have more a warmth of the heart, which is that sense of the warmth of relationship that you have when we work with the heart center. So our exercises will sort of switch between one center and the other to complement each other, and so that you can experience the effects of these two different kinds of center. So we'll start in a standing position. And I'd like to start with the warrior positions. And in particular, when we do these warrior positions, on the one hand, they're very strengthening for the legs, but with the focus that I want to have today is of really stretching outwards from the solar plexus through the spine. So we'll form a good base with our legs, and then we'll focus on really growing and lengthening in quite an active way. So this is attuning us to this very dynamic and active sense of centering and moving outwards. So we'll take the feet a good wide step apart. You can take the front foot to point forwards and the back foot just slightly inwards to begin with, and the hips facing forwards. And then bend your knee so that it comes directly over your ankle, and take the same arm as your front leg, take that arm upwards. The back arm can rest, the hand can just rest on the back of your thigh. So with that good feeling of a stable base, your back leg should be stretched out. You can now start to grow from this solar plexus region, stretching up through the thoracic spine, up through between the shoulder blades. We can think of this activity of literally streaming outwards through the upper part of the body, out through the arm, out through to the fingertips. Keep the breath flowing, good strong stretch, and come back again. Let's change the legs around. The wider your stretch between the feet, the stronger the movement is. Make sure your hips are facing forwards, and take the knee so it's directly over your ankle. Find that good stability in your legs before you start. Back hand rests on the back thigh, front arm comes upwards. Take your awareness to this solar plexus region, and now start to grow, lengthening up through the spine between the shoulder blades, up through the arm, keep breathing, right up through to the fingertips. Just keep the arm by the ear, so you don't necessarily need to look backwards, but the picture is that we're streaming up and out very actively and dynamically through the upper body and the arm, and then come back down again and step forward. This time we are going to do the movement facing sideways. So you can actually have your feet perpendicular to each other. Heels should be aligned. Take your knee once again so it's directly over the ankle. Open your hips to face outwards. And start with your arms out sideways. So our picture is that from the solar plexus, we're streaming outwards. You can stream out sideways with this arm. And then take your elbow down onto your leg and let's stream upwards. Think of the solar plexus and that streaming movement into the space above us. Keep breathing. And then you can take your arm right outwards along the ear, and you can also look up at your arm. So you're streaming outwards now through the side of the body. You can feel that really strong stretch out through the side and through the arm. So take your arm back down, straighten up your body, and then straighten up the leg. Change the legs around. Keep the hips open. Take the knee so it's directly over your ankle. And then from the solar plexus, you can stream outwards into the space to either side of you. Keep the breath flowing. So we're aware of our center, we're aware of the space. Take the elbow down. And now from that solar plexus, stream upwards through that arm. And then take it right alongside your ear if you can. You can turn to look up. That keeps the front of the body more open. There's a stretch right through the whole side of the body, but you can picture the movement streaming actively out through that arm and through to the fingers. Keep breathing. Take the arm back down again. Straighten up your body and then straighten up the leg. Let's just clasp hold of your fingers behind your back. You can squeeze your shoulder blades together if they come together more, depends on your flexibility. And then just bend down and hang forwards. Let the breath flow. You can let the shoulder region stretch right out so the arms drop down over the head. Keep breathing, keep the legs good and firm. And then lower the arms and come back up again. So this time we're going to do another variation with a slight twist. I'll show you this one first. So we come into the position in the same way as before, knee bending over the ankle, stretching right out as we just did. And then you can take the arm right round behind you, clasp hold of your hands between your legs, and you can now twist. You can twist the body to look up at the ceiling. Think of your whole upper spine lengthening outwards into the space beyond your head. Then you straighten up and finally straighten up the leg. Okay, so the legs are really staying really strong. With the upper body, we're twisting. So take the first foot out sideways, keep the hips open. Take your knee so it's directly over your ankle. Let's get that streaming movement outwards again so we can become aware of this solar plexus region. And let's come into this position as we did before. You can take the arm right outwards. You can look up towards the arm. That already opens your body a bit. Streaming outwards with that arm. Good strong legs. Now take the arm down behind your back. You have to support yourself with your bent leg
as you take the other hand to clasp the fingers between your legs. And now you twist and you look upwards, keeping your chest open, look up at the ceiling. Imagine that your thoracic spine and your neck are being drawn out lengthways and your head into the space beyond. So your spine is lengthening. Keep breathing. Then you can come back up, straighten up the leg, and take the hands down. Change the feet around. Keep the hips really open. Take the knee over the ankle. Good tightness in the pelvic region. Stretch the arms out. You can picture that movement outwards from your solar plexus, outwards into the space. Take the elbow down onto the knee. And now grow right through the side of the body, looking up at your arm. Breathing, good active lengthening right through the side. Then take the hand down behind your back, clasp the fingers, keep those legs strong, the knee bent, twisting to look upwards. Imagine your upper spine and your head and your neck lengthening outwards, away from you to the front. Keep the legs bent as you straighten up your body, and then straighten up the legs. Make your feet parallel. Take your hands behind your back again. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. If you're able to twist your arms, you can do. Otherwise, just keep them as they are and bend forwards. And once again, you can let the arms hang right down over your head. Lower the arms and come back up to a standing position and close your legs. So we'll come now to a heart center position, which is much more peaceful. So now we have, instead of that picture of streaming outwards into the periphery, we have a sense of centering in from the periphery. Take your feet now so that they're about 18 inches, 2 feet apart. And just start with your hands by your sides. So the center in this position is the heart center. You could take your awareness to that point. Be aware of your breathing. When we listen to our breathing, and we also take our awareness to the heart center, we can start to get a sense that our breathing really flows right into the depth of the heart. So listening to the breath, feeling the breath in that region can have a very calming and centering kind of position, kind of feeling. So now turn your hands to face forwards and take the arms right up until they're the same, the hands are the same distance apart as your feet. I don't think you can see my hands, maybe you can just. You need to turn the hands so that they face towards each other. The whole body forms a really good geometric shape. 2 straight lines crossing each other just below the heart center. Take this form into your awareness. In this position, it's actually the form, the experience of the form is more important than the feeling of the actual body. You can experience the cross-shaped form. It has a center and it has a periphery. And you can come gently up onto your toes. Stay with the experience of the form, the cross, with its center and its periphery. Come back down again. And take your hands gently downwards. So we'll come to another more active movement, the scales, where we'll once again focus our awareness on the solar plexus and on this activity of streaming outwards very dynamically into the periphery. Let's start with a preparatory movement where we can do this same, we can experience this feeling in the standing position. Here's our center, streaming outwards through that back leg, so you can keep the toes on the ground, just lightly touching, but with a real sense of activity through that leg, straightening the back knee out. And then you can add in the streaming forwards through the upper spine as you raise your arms as well. So the whole body is brought into a strong tension, growing outwards in the two directions. See if you can even allow your shoulders to grow right through until the arms come up. Higher and higher, breath flowing. And come back down again. The other side. Step forward. Be aware of that solar plexus as your starting point. Streaming backwards through your buttock, through the back of your leg, back into the heel. And then forwards from the solar plexus through the upper spine. Through the arms, through to the fingers. Keep breathing. Stay with that mental picture. There's a streaming out in both directions. The back leg is pushed outwards. The arms are pushed up. And come back down again. Let's just pause for a moment to experience our breathing after this position. You can very often feel how when you've done active solar plexus movements, the breath flows much more expansively. With the heart center, we get that feeling that the breath flows into the depth, very calming. With the solar plexus, we have a feeling that the breath expands, much fuller, more spacious. Let's come into the actual scales now. We'll do it in exactly the same way, focusing on the center, the movement back into the leg, forwards through the upper spine and the arms. You all know the position, so we'll come into it together. Taking a step forward. Be aware of your solar plexus. And then you can come actively back into the back leg and forwards through the spine, through the arms to the fingertips, streaming actively outwards in the two directions. Keep the breath flowing. Stay with your mental picture that from the center you stream outwards. And then return again. Take the foot down, stream upwards again from the solar plexus, and take the hands down by your sides. And then the other side, take a step forward. Have a good lift, so you're opening up from your solar plexus. Grow into the back leg. Take the arms forwards. Create your mental picture that you're streaming outwards, powerfully in the two directions. Keep breathing, keep growing, keep streaming out. And then return again. Grow upwards. Right the way up high. And take your hands down. So what can be helpful to really be able to get more active stretching out is to make sure that you get a very good movement upwards through the legs. So the leg shouldn't droop too much. If your leg is hanging down there, you'll find it really difficult to get the growth through the upper body. We can talk about a centering in the spine as if our energy is sort of drawing together And we find that by really taking the leg up high enough. So if you take the leg to a really good height, you've got much more gathered strength there, and then you can find a better strength to go out in the opposite direction as well. It's as if the whole spine is really tightened. Let's have another go. So take a step onto one foot. Be aware of the center of your back. Come into the position with the leg first of all, making sure that you really tighten your back to bring the leg up as high as you can. And then you can take the arms forwards as well. That tightness in your back gives you a real gathering of strength. Then you can stream outwards. Out of the tightening, the power gathers, and then it can shoot out in the two directions. You can clasp hold of your thumbs if that helps, so that you can draw your arms forwards as well. And then return again and take the foot down. And the other side. Take a good step. Growing first, so you really get that sense of using your back muscles. Push that leg powerfully backwards through the lower back, through the buttock, through the back of the leg, and then you can grow powerfully forwards as well at the same time, streaming outwards. Keep the breath flowing, face relaxed, good active streaming movement outwards. And then return again. Take the foot down and grow upwards, stretching and stretching. And take the hands down. Let's just roll down and hang forwards to release your spine. And come back up once again. So the next one that we'll come to is the shoulder stand. And we'll start just with a half shoulder stand. In fact, we can do this with the arms above the head. And so for this first time of doing it, you can simply experience your heart as the center. You can come up into this position. You can take the arms one at a time above the head. And then you can focus for a little bit of time on the heart center with this idea that I mentioned, that when we listen to the heart center and we also feel the breathing, we can start to get that experience of depth, of center in the heart. So would you like to come into that preparatory position for the shoulder stand? Keep the awareness at the heart center. At this point, we're not worried too much about how far we come into the position, but just staying with that thought, the heart is the center. And with this kind of experience of center, we can picture energies gently gathering inwards to a calm center at the heart. From the periphery, they flow into the center. Then you can come back down to a sitting position. So I think you're all familiar with the mental picture that we very often take for the shoulder stand, which is that from the heart center, the energy then flows up so it can gather in at the heart center. And then in this very gentle and calm way, it flows upwards. We'll do it like this, that we'll come into the position with the arms above the head once again. A lot of people find this position, once you've mastered the balance, it can actually be a little bit easier and more relaxing because your shoulders can relax more easily in this position. So we'll once again focus on the heart center, and then you can see how far your body can glide up in that position before you take your hands behind you. So you're actually picturing a gliding upwards out of the heart center. And eventually you'll need to take your hands, you won't be able to come any further. You can then take your hands behind you and then stay with that picture again, out of the heart center. The body glides up further into the line. So if you like to come into that position with your hands above your head, just keep the breath flowing and start with the same mental picture that you had last time, that the energy is gathering at the heart center. It flows inwards to the center from the periphery. It brings a calming, peaceful feeling. Then you can take the mental picture that out of the center comes this flowing upwards through the spine, through the legs and feet. And once you've reached the limit of how far the body will flow on its own, you can then take your hands behind onto your back. Stay with your mental picture. Out of the heart center, the energy flows upwards and gradually you feel your body carried up. The legs have naturally come together into a tidy line. They all form, the whole body forms part of the form. The feet gently come together. One flowing line from the heart center. And then come back down and relax again. Let's come into the fish as a counter pose. You can take your arms right underneath your body, straighten out your legs, bringing the legs side by side. The legs just flow along the ground. The centering is going to be between the shoulder blades in this movement, and the head will drop back. So come right up onto your elbows now. Lift up your rib cage really actively. Lift up your chest and drop the head back. Centering is between the shoulder blades.
then slide back down and relax. And come up to a sitting position. And we'll come next to the head to knee position. So if you need to use a cushion for this, then do grab hold of it. Another very good one for centering out of the solar plexus in this very active and dynamic way. So let's come back to our awareness of the solar plexus and do the first preparatory movement where we stream upwards through the upper spine, through the arms, upwards into the periphery above us, building up this picture of streaming out of the center. Take the hands down again. Let's do it coming to a slight diagonal, but with the arms opened outwards this time. Be aware of your solar plexus. Picture this streaming movement that moves outwards into the periphery as you just lean slightly forwards, but taking your arms right up and outwards like this. Stay with that picture, that active center in the solar plexus, streaming outwards through the upper spine, streaming out through the arms. Come back up again, actively uplifting, growing right up through the upper spine, right up through the arms, and take the hands down. Okay, let's come a little bit further out and further forward. Same thing again, starting with that feeling of center, that picture of lengthening outwards through the upper spine, through the arms, out into the openness. Center and periphery, that is our picture. And see if you can stream out even further. Center and periphery, a real sense of openness to the outside, centering in the middle of the back, and even further, right the way out. Come back again, upwards from your center, right up high into the space above you, and take the hands down. This time we will draw the arms forwards. What we'll do, I'll just show you quickly. We're going to draw the arms forwards before taking them down, but we're still going to keep that sense of streaming out into the periphery. Good, firm legs on the ground. Be aware of your center. Take the arms up. Start to move outwards from that center, lengthening through the upper spine, streaming out through the arms, right the way out. Keep growing actively forwards and the way forwards, lengthening right out far, and then eventually you can take that to your toes. So we have that sense of center streaming through the upper half of the spine, outwards towards the periphery. Come back up once again. Up one more time. Stretching up. Let's see if we can come into it once again without rounding down. When you come right down, really try and avoid the rounding. See if you can keep that sense of length of moving outwards. We'll come into it one final time. Breath flowing, moving out, lengthening through the spine, through the arms, drawing outwards, flowing out into the periphery, growing longer and longer. Keep that sense of length, even as you take your hands down now. Keep that sense of really growing long. Breath flowing, lengthening through the spine.
The spaces between the vertebrae can increase if we keep that sense of always lengthening. And then come back again. Actively up. Growing up more. Further, right the way up high. Lengthening even more, growing really tall. And take the hands down. So, check the timing. Right, so we will come next to the balancing head to knee position. We haven't done this one on a Tuesday evening for a while. So you can start like this, taking hold of your feet. So your feet come a little bit off the ground. Okay, just keep your breath flowing. So this is a position where we have a very strong central core through the body. Actually, we could say that all of the 4 lower chakras are involved in keeping this strong backbone. You could even come this way around and you can see better, and I can also see my screen better. So we've got a good uprightness. And at the same time, with our awareness, our head is very free, so we can be aware of this periphery around us. Let's just pause in this starting position like this. So our center now we could regard as being our backbone, right from the base, upwards through the spine. And the periphery is our view around the room. We're aware of ourselves in the room, and that's really important because people get very, very fixed on trying to do this position and balance. But if we can find that sense of sort of openness, a sense of being in the room, that actually helps the balance more. That is one of the qualities, we could say, of the heart center. Aware of ourselves in the space around us. So from that position, we could say an order between our central backbone and the space of the room. You can now start to open out your legs. You're keeping the back upright. You're straightening your legs upwards, but you're staying aware of your own uprightness and of the space around you in the room. Let the breath flow. Very good. So come back down again. So this position produces a really good balance between a calm, a strength, we could say strength and calmness. Because it's a balance, it has that very calming quality which we associate with the heart center. But the fact that it also uses the lower centers gives it a real strength. We need a real tightness down here in the lower 2 chakras. We need that strong uprightness from the 3rd center. And then we have that calmness of balance from the heart center. So I'd like to do it again, and we'll see if we can intensify the strength a little bit more. And with that, we intensify that feeling of calmness. So let's do it once again. Take hold of your feet. You can either take the feet separately, or you can clasp your hands if you're able to get your legs completely straight already. Straighten up your back. Just have your head free, so you're looking around you into the room. That gives that calm sense of, I have my body in the space around me. That's the heart center.
Breath flowing. We also have that real strengthening quality. So from the base centers up through the middle of the back. We straighten up the legs as well. Breath flowing freely. We've got on the one hand a real gathered strength right through the lower centers down in the pelvis, abdomen, sacrum. Also that uprightness of the solar plexus. And at the same time, that calmness of the heart center. Of the breath flow. Strength and calmness. Come back down again. Sit up straight. It's very interesting sometimes to just pause after the positions, and as we've been doing already, we've been experiencing the breathing. Let's just listen to the breathing, where we feel it now, how we feel it. Perhaps we can feel a combination of both that depth of breath in the heart and also the expansiveness of the breathing that we feel more in the sides. So the next one that we'll come to is the sideline triangle. Another one where we can experience the solar plexus and that movement of energy that streams out into the periphery in this more dynamic way. Lie on one side with your arm stretched above your head. Actually, I'm going to just move my camera because I don't think you can see that very well. So one arm is stretched along the floor. Be aware of your solar plexus. So we can come back to our old picture, streaming through the upper part of the body, streaming out through the lower half of the body. Let's take one arm up first of all. This is very good for preparing our awareness for the movement. We've got the center, and we can feel ourselves streaming outwards in 3 different directions: upwards, along above the head, and along towards the legs. Take your hand down again, and now do the same thing with the leg. Take it right up high into the space above you. The center is the solar plexus. You can take that hand up, take hold of the foot or the ankle or the leg. And let's stay with our mental picture from the solar plexus. We're streaming out into the periphery in all different directions. Let the breath flow. Come back down again. Let's change over to the other side. So one arm stretches along the ground, the head rests on the arm. Solar plexus is the center. Take one arm up into the space and just become conscious of that pattern again, the center and the streaming out in all these different directions into the periphery. Take the hand down in front of you, take the leg up into that same movement, center, streaming out into both legs and upwards into that arm above your head, and then take the other arm up to take hold of your foot or your ankle or leg.
Come back to that awareness center and streaming out into the periphery. Then come back down again. And then change over to the other side. Once again. Feel that length along the ground. Be aware of that center in your solar plexus. The head is relaxed. The face is relaxed. Let's experience the breathing this time. Take your leg right up into the periphery again. Take the arm up as well. We have center, we have periphery. And let's just pay more conscious attention this time to the experience of our breath when we work in this way, streaming from the center outwards. The breathing always responds to both what we do with our body and what we do with our mind. And come back again. Change over to the other side. Stretching out along the floor. Head resting on your arm. Take the leg right up high. Take hold of the foot or the leg with your hand. Come to your mental picture of center and periphery. And then experience your breathing. Come back down again. Just lie on your back for a moment. When we lie on the back, we can again experience the breathing in quite a clear way. We can experience the effect that the exercise has had. And now would you like to roll over onto your front? And we're going to come to the bow. And we'll start first of all with some preparatory movements to give the feeling once again of streaming out into the periphery from the center. So you can take your right hand forward, your left hand back. And now you can lift up your left leg and the left arm, and also lift up your chest and the right arm. Be aware of that center at the solar plexus, anchored on the ground as you stream outwards into your limbs. Come back down again. Change over to the other side. Be aware of that center, lifting up the back leg and the back hand, and then the chest, and stream outwards in the two directions. Full free breathing. And come back again. Let's bend both your legs, but don't take hold of the ankles just yet. Be aware of that center in your spine, and just lift up your chest, drawing the shoulders and the arms back. You can even see if you can lift the knees up a little bit. You may or may not be able to do that. But what this does is give you, once again, that sense of that real centering inwards into your spine. And then come back down again. So we have a feeling of the center right in the middle of the spine and the periphery outwards. Let's now take the right arm up once again and take hold of the left ankle with your left hand. You can keep your knees really quite wide apart because that makes it easier. We're going to keep the face on the ground and try to just lift up the leg that you're holding. Not pulling with the arm, just gently supporting the ankle with the hand, but pushing that knee upwards and out behind you. Come back down again. Change over to the other side. Lifting up that leg. Breath flowing. Be aware of your center at the spine, that direction of moving backward through the leg. And come back down again. So the wider apart your knees are for this, the easier it actually is. So let's come into the actual bow now. So take hold of both ankles, knees quite wide apart. Be aware of that center at the solar plexus. Take the legs up behind you. And grow up through the spine forwards as well, opening up the chest. Center is at the center of the back. The periphery is in the space all around us. Stay with that mental picture, center and periphery. Come back down again. I'd just like you to have a look over here at this exercise. It's quite helpful if you can look forwards, because in looking forwards, you get a sense of the space all around you. I just want to show you that so you can see the picture. Our center is here. The legs are coming up. And then as we take the chest up, the head opens outwards, and it's very different. If we're looking down, we can't get that experience of our surroundings. We want to feel that we have a center in the middle of the back and that we have space around us. So if you like to come into it once again, do take the knees apart. If they're together, it's much harder to get them off the ground. The wider apart they are, the easier it is. Taking hold of your ankles, but don't bend the elbows. Be aware of that center of your spine anchors down. When you're ready, take the knees up. And then grow upwards through the upper spine, opening your chest outwards. And look out. So we have a center behind you in the middle of your back. You have the periphery, the space in front of you. A little bit higher. And then come back down again. And push back into child's pose. And come up to a sitting position. So this next exercise is a slight anomaly from the principle that I've said, mainly I've talked about when we work with the heart center, the energy gathers inwards. This time, this position, we're going to focus on the heart center, but we're going to continue with that thought of streaming outwards. So when you sit up, this is the sitting balance. It's quite strenuous, but it can at the same time give quite a peaceful experience afterwards. It's called the Pose of Cheerfulness. So you can lift up your heart center. You can picture an energy that now streams from the heart outwards. And then to really make the position strenuous, take the feet up. Let's hold the position for about 20 seconds or so. Let the breath flow. And keep on streaming upwards from the heart center upwards. And keep a good cheerful smile on your face. Keep breathing. And then come back down again. Sit upwards. Just take the awareness back to that heart center again. We can experience a flow of breath here. And although we might be tired, we can, in a strange way, it gives quite a kind of joyful feeling, that movement. We'll finish off then with the lying twist. And the lying twist, we can focus on the solar plexus center. The body twists in the two directions out of that center. On the one hand, we flow towards the leg on one side and towards the shoulder on the other side. That forms the center. And you can experience what happens once again to your breathing. So take your right knee with your left hand and bring that knee down towards the floor on your left side until your hips come into a vertical plane. Turn your head to look over the right shoulder. Make sure your breath is flowing. And you can picture how that movement grows in the two directions, towards the bent knee and towards the opposite shoulder, simultaneously. And then eventually you can grab the foot of you can bend in the straightened leg and grab that foot with your hand, if you're able to. So be aware of that center of your solar plexus, the twisting around in the two directions, and the breath. Notice how the movement affects your breathing. Straighten up again. Straighten out your right leg, bend your left leg, take the knee down towards the floor on your right side. Head turns to look over the left side. Be aware of your center. And allow that twisting to happen then in the two directions. Keep the breath flowing freely. Eventually you can take hold of the foot with your hand. From the center, you grow in two directions. Be aware of your breathing. Straighten up once again. Just hug your knees into your chest. And then you can straighten out your legs and come into Shavasana, the relaxing position. Your spine forming the central axis. And your arms and your legs coming evenly out to the sides. And be aware of the breath coming from the space around you. So our theme for today has been center and periphery. We've explored two different centers. You can take your awareness to the solar plexus center. You can experience the breathing in that region around your rib cage. And then you can take your awareness to the heart center. When we focus on the heart center, we can experience the breathing in a very different kind of way. As if it flows right into the depth of the heart. And move your arms and your legs once again. And sit up again when you're ready.